All right, our next one is the doctrine of election is difficult for my husband and I to understand. We know that each person is dead in his or her sin before they accept Christ as their Lord and Savior. Is it that God has chosen some in every generation who will be saved, and that he knows their hearts and will be quickened by the grace he has granted through Christ's sacrifice? And that as we and other Christians are in the world to spread the gospel to others, it's a matter of reaching those God has already chosen?
Yeah. None of these questions are simple questions. And I think we've had one about the election before, a couple of weeks ago. Okay, so let's go back to an antinomy. So what's an antinomy?
I'm getting quizzed.
She's freaking out on
something
me.
two things
Something I don't get.
same...
Yeah. Like,
right.
How does gas get into the car? And it's a mystery. You pull a little trigger. So an antinomy, something that, okay, so it's two things that are justly true at the same time. But how could that be? Mm-hmm. Because in philosophy, the law of non-contradiction says, and it's the first principles of logic that Aristotle discovered. So the first principle of all human logic is the law of non-contradiction, which means two things can't be true at the same time in the same sense. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. It's illogical. So you can't have, I believe in gravity, me, and you tell me, hey, Pastor, I'm convinced, along with my husband, there is no gravity.
Right.
See, there are two diametrically opposed positions.
Mm-hmm.
We know one is true,
right.
and we can test it. And so we could go on the roof of the church. I could tell you, you jump first, and I'll come do the hospital visitation. But we can validate one's true, one's false. But what happens when you have two things that are true at the same time, and they're both true? Well, that's an antinomy. So in election you have, okay, so does God elect? What does it mean? What does it mean to elect? It means he chooses. Mm-hmm. He chooses. Well, how does he choose? Because if God chooses, then where's my free will? So it says I have free will, mm-hmm. but then it says he chooses. So does his choosing trump my free will? It seems with my finite mind that it would, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, then how did he choose? So it says that he has foreknowledge when he chooses us. So what is foreknowledge? So foreknowledge is related to omniscience. So God knows all things at all times in totality. He learns nothing. I mean, imagine. Never having to learn it. So he has total knowledge of all things. So when he creates the cosmos and creates us, he already knows as he looks down time, but he sees time in all directions, past, present, and future, when he created it, in toto. I mean, there's no part of it missing. So he can look down at the end and go, oh, that person will trust my son as their savior. Mm-hmm. So that person is foreknown, who's then predestined to then be part of God's family. Because he knows that. Mm-hmm. And based on that type of foreknowledge is God is choosing based upon what he knows is going to be done. The person can only be saved when they evidence faith in Jesus Christ. They're not saved by the fact he chose them. They're saved by the expression of their faith, because this is what Paul says in Romans 10:9. If you confess with your mouth the Lord, Jesus as Lord, and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. Mm-hmm. You elect. He didn't say that. Mm-hmm. It's just when you believe that, then you are saved. So you have to make a decision. From our perspective, we have a free will to make a decision. So on our dimensionality and our finiteness, we are told we have free will, and we're told we may have to make a decision, or otherwise we're not saved. In God's dimension, which is beyond our dimension, where he lives, he knows all things. But his foreknowledge does not determine our action, because we're not robots. We have the free will to choose from our perspective. How the two relate in that antinomy, no man can totally understand that.
Great questions today.
because they're both true.
Right.
What he doesn't say anywhere in the Bible is says he does choose people to be part of his heavenly family. He does not say that he chooses people for hell. Mm-hmm. Nowhere. It's by implication. So if he chooses, 7 billion people to inhabit heaven, and then 100 billion he doesn't choose. If he chooses 7 billion to be saved, and he didn't choose the 100 billion, well, then it seems to imply then he predestined them for hell. Nowhere does it say that. That's called double predestination. I don't believe in double predestination. But I do believe that he chose the elect. The problem is I don't know who the elect are. Who are they? Nobody knows. Nobody's walking around with the sign on them going, hey, I'm elect. Nobody. So who do you share the gospel with? What did Jesus say? Matthew 28, 19 and 20. The Great Commission, go into all the world and preach the gospel. To who? Did he say just to the elect? No. He said go and preach it to the whole world. And before he ascended on the Mount of Olives back up into heaven, in Acts chapter 1, verse 8, what did he say? His last words to the church, be my witnesses. To who? The elect? Nope. To Jerusalem, to Judea, and to the uttermost parts of the world. So start in Jerusalem, go out from there to Judea and Samaria, and then draw a circle and go out to the entire world with the gospel of Christ. And he didn't say just take it to the elect. So from our perspective, we don't know who the elect are. We know he chooses, but I'm under mandate to present the gospel to whoever. Because the gospel call is to whoever. John 3:16, for God so loved the elect that he gave his only begotten son. Does it say that? No, it's for God so loved the world. See? So that's a mystery. You can only explain, you can explain each side of it, but how those railroad tracks merge is a mystery on this side of heaven. The key question is, we should be thankful that God elected anybody, because people will say election is unjust, but what would be just? Well, justice would be when Adam and Eve fell in the Garden of Eden, God just nuked mankind and never gave us a chance. That's justice, because he's totally holy. And they just ate of the forbidden fruit. But what did he do? He moved in mercy to redeem some. He didn't have to.
Right.
So the real question is, wow, how much does he love us? I mean, that he was willing to put up with us and attempt to redeem us. And the way he would redeem us was he'd have to die for us, because we couldn't save ourselves. So people get all strung out on, election and free will, and lose the fact of what justice truly demands and how merciful God has truly been. So the fact that he's chosen anybody to be in heaven is total grace and mercy. So what's the big question? Well, do I know Christ as Savior? That's the question. Because the minute you say, I confess him as Lord and believe in that he's raised from the dead, I pass from death to life. Then I was his child, predestined to do that. But he didn't make me do it. Anyway,
that's cool.
That's about all I can say on that. Now, if you want to read about it, get a systematic theology. And
we're all going to be ordering. Amazon's going to be.
You're going to be in a systematic theology. You're going to be looking up words like predestination.
And you have some time at home right now, conveniently.
Predestination, election, and free will. Those three words are what you're going to want to read about.
Okay.
Which we'll go into more detail. Did I? Okay, I forgot to bring this book. There's a book, and I think it's called The 4 Views of Predestination, which is what this is. And it's on Amazon because I just saw it. This is like the 4 Views of Predestination, and it will list the 4 views, the 4 theological views of it, and give you each author who supports those 4 views, and then it will have other scholars rebut those views in favor of their view. So if you really want to get into it, I have a copy of the book. That's the book to read, and you can kind of decide for yourself how you should think about it.